not only in the precious metals market but in the oil market as well. Remember, most global markets are shut today, but oil is currently at about $60.8 per barrel mark. Remember, it ended with a decline of over 1.5% in trade yesterday. Precious metals, meanwhile, have seen a solid run last year. It is now trading near that $4,400 per ounce. That's the gold, and it ended 0.5% lower in trade yesterday, although it was on track to register the biggest performance and the best performance that we have seen since 1979. Silver, on the other hand, is now trading near that $72 per ounce mark. But remember, it saw a sharp fall in trade yesterday. The white metal ended with a decline of over 6% in trade yesterday. So that's the kind of moves that we have seen in the precious metals market and in the oil market over the last 24 hours. But let's put the spotlight on the precious metals in particular. And as I mentioned, gold and silver prices have run up. But what kind of impact has that had on demand, both not only in the domestic market but in the international market? And to understand that, we're now joined by Mr. Sanket Patel, convener LGD panel at GJEPC, now joining us. Mr. Patel, afternoon, and thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. So the first and the most important question, with the surge in gold and silver prices, has sale of lab-grown diamonds risen, and what kind of impact are you seeing on sale of natural gold and diamonds in the global market?
Lab-grown diamonds are clearly benefiting from the current hike of gold and silver prices, and this is visible from domestic and international market orders both. Like consumers still aspire, having to wear the same old-fashioned jewelry that they used to wear, but they do not want to compromise on the size and obviously the look of the jewelry that they're purchasing. So overall, lab-grown diamond helps them overcome, with their ticket pricing and also with the high bullion, without compromising any design and appeal. It benefits to the customer for buying lab-grown diamond.
Okay, and Mr. Patel, if you can take us through what is your view on the volume growth for lab-grown diamonds? What was the kind of growth that we saw in 2025, and what's the outlook for 2026? Do you believe that because of the surge in gold and silver prices, demand for lab-grown diamonds is expected to increase this year?
See, definitely the industry data, independent research data, and also with our data banks that we have created over the years, we've seen an extreme amount of growth and a positive growth towards lab-grown diamond as the volumes are really high. And even though prices have, prices and the margins have been corrected throughout the year, and they are at least stabilized now. Looking ahead, most global forecasts still project lab-grown diamonds a faster growth. Also, this category continues to build consumer trust. This gives us more importance, and this gives us more. This gives it more push for the coming future.
Okay, so that's as far as the demand environment is concerned. But Mr. Patel, how do you look at the category-wise export demand? Which sub-segment is showing most traction in the global market? Is it the delicate everyday wear jewelry, or is it wedding-led jewelry which is aiding demand as far as lab-grown diamonds is concerned?
So the strongest current momentum is in accessible design-driven jewelry that has delicate everyday wear, studs, earrings, bracelets, tennis bracelets, and also if we see the wedding engagement bridal rings remain the very important segment in the lab-grown diamond industry, as the US and the European market is heavily accepted this product in a drastic way. Also, we see a movement in everyday luxury wear. So in this context, these categories are the ones that are pushing forward.
Okay, so these are the segments where you're seeing highest traction. But Mr. Patel, geography-wise, which geographies are aiding demand?
See, the US continues to be the single largest market for lab-grown diamond, especially with bridal and proposal rings. But at the same time, Asia Pacific, including India, China, Europe, and also Middle East, especially UAE right now, the way they've started to consume lab-grown diamond, we see a good, merger with all the countries coming in and accepting lab-grown diamond in a very ethical way.
Okay, and Mr. Patel, any comments on the impact of Trump tariffs on export to the US? I understand that tariffs were levied at the rate of 50% from August. What kind of impact is the industry facing on account of these tariffs that were levied to the US, and what is the expectation if at all US were to lower tariffs? What kind of benefit will the industry enjoy on account of that?
Definitely. Earlier, when the tariffs were implemented, everybody did face a nervous few weeks. But looking at the current market and looking at our entire export data, we have seen our exports have only increased even after the tariff. So what we see is the customer also prefers lab-grown diamond, as the customer is the one who's paying for the tariff. But in the end, they require a benefited price, which lab-grown diamond can always accommodate. And also, we have seen strong export, as I said, not only at Green Lab, but throughout the entire industry. This year has been the most beneficial year for lab-grown diamonds in the last 4 years.
Okay, so 2025 has been the most beneficial year for the lab-grown diamond industry in the last 4 years. That's the word coming in. But Mr. Patel, several other players are also now entering the industry, especially the established players. What, according to you, will be the impact of some players like Titan now entering the market? What kind of outlook are you penciling in, and are you expecting or bracing up for competition from these established players?
Definitely, as we see more, organized retails, more digital first brands actively promoting lab-grown diamond, it's going to be a great journey ahead, because the more the market is exposed to lab-grown diamond, people will be more aware of what the difference, as there is no difference between natural and lab diamond. People will understand, and once you touch and feel the product, and it is more accessible to touch and feel in the entire market, I think it will be a good movement for the entire industry.
Okay, so that's the word coming in on what the outlook is for the lab-grown diamond industry, especially because of the surge in gold and silver prices that we have seen of late. Mr. Patel, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. But shifting focus to our next segment, did you know? And today we put the spotlight on some interesting facts and figures related to steel production globally. And did you know daily steel production is astronomically high? To put things into perspective for you, the amount of daily global steel production is enough to build 548 Eiffel Towers, and global steel production almost doubled between 2001 and 2014. Today, about 8 million people work in the steel industry globally, which is the same as the population of Switzerland. The first steel-made automobile was introduced in 1918, and modern cars are built with new steels that are much stronger but are also 35% lighter than the past. Steel made from modern skyscraper is now possible, and the home insurance building in Chicago, completed in 1885, was the world's first skyscraper. Today, the housing and construction sector uses about 50% of the world's steel production. That's all the time we have on this edition of Commodity Central, but don't go anywhere. Newsroom will come up next.